How's it going, everyone? Akibana0 here, and yesterday I went to Sakura Fight Festa, where I got to try out the game that I've been looking forward to the most, which is BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle. The people from P-Cube, who is going to be publishing the game for Europe, has brought a single setup with BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle at the event, where I was able to sit down and play a few matches and watch other people play the game as well. So I'm doing a video where I'm explaining, where I'm giving out basically the impressions I got from going hands-on and observing the game up close. Initial thoughts. First of all, looks absolutely gorgeous in motion. I mean, if you thought it looked great on videos and all that, wait till you just see it live. It looks even better. It's colorful, it's flashy, it's great. It's definitely amazing. It feels very fast paced, yet I feel there's a lot of strategic depth to it. It's not it doesn't feel like it's going to be that much of a pummel fest, so to speak, where you're just going to be finding yourself on lockdown as long as you kind of know some of the basics of the game. It feels very ground game emphasized, even though it is an anime fighter where going to the air and air dashing and all of that is going to be a big part of it. It still feels like a lot of the stuff that you're going to do to try and get position on the screen is going to depend on how well you move on the ground and how well you use your normals and special attacks. It definitely feels like a game that could be relatively easy to pick up and play. There are certain mechanics in the game that are quite easy to grasp, especially the auto combos and stuff. It's definitely going to have a bit of a learning curve, like all fighting games do. But if you are new to the game and you have a bunch of people around you who are new to the game, I think you could all have like a lot of fun without feeling like you're completely lost or you're not doing anything that's interesting, so to speak, and that's mostly thanks to the button scheme. It's I think one of the biggest draws is going to be creating teams, doing that mixing and matching between characters and coming up with strategies and mix-ups and other stuff like that to make a team that does something insane, something completely broken, which has always been kind of sort of what team fighters have always been about. I feel multiple play styles are gonna definitely be quite viable in this game. You'll be able, if you want to play an offense based team, you'll be able to do that. You want to play a zoning based team, you'll be able to do that as well. You'll be able to pretty much do anything that you want to put your mind to, because there are just so many different characters with different play styles, different assists, different specials that will emphasize what kind of which you can mix and match and create any kind of team that you want. Overall, before I jump into the details, I would say that if there was any doubt whatsoever, any little bit of doubt that I had that this was going to be a great game, that is all gone now. My excitement has definitely hit overdrive at this point. I'm really hyped for the game to come out. Right, so let's go down to brass tacks. Let's look at the details. Let's start off with graphics and presentation. So first of all of the characters, and I've said this many times from the videos that I've seen, but it's definitely been, I've been completely convinced of this at this point. Like, all the characters feel like they belong in the same game. That is something that has been a problem with 2D crossover games in the past, even though we're talking about many years ago. We're talking about things like games like Marvel vs. Capcom 2, Capcom vs. SNK, that kind of stuff, where the characters don't feel like they totally belong in the same game because they've basically had sprites copy-pasted. Here, the sprites pretty much come from games that have been drawn or developed in a very similar manner. So, especially the ones that were primarily developed from ArcSys, which were namely Persona 4, Arena, and BlazBlue. But even the Unist characters, which are also high-definition anime-styled characters, these all, the way they've been scaled and adjusted and all of that to fit together, they feel like they absolutely belong with each other. But that doesn't mean that they have lost their the flair or whatever made them unique in their own respective games. The Persona characters, they still have their personas and still use them the way that they did in previous games, and that looks really amazing in motion as well. they all basically appear just as distinct as they would be in their own universes, yet at the same time they feel like they're a part of that. And the same goes with the Ruby characters. The way they've been drawn, the way they've been put into the universe, they feel like they're a part of it. You see Ruby clamoring over Ragnar's sword, and that just looks really, really natural, really normal, like Ruby was actually in BlazBlue the whole time. Weiss looks absolutely gorgeous. She's animated amazingly. She's just as graceful and awesome as she is in the show, and I have to say that she was the character who kind of attracted my attention mostly, even though I played Ruby. As for the UI, I feel like it's extremely clean, minimalistic, yet stylized. It's kind of like the kind of thing that I was hoping to expect from a game like Street Fighter V, which was aiming for minimalism, yet we got something completely bland and minimalistic. Here, you get something minimalistic, but it has style, it has flair, it feels like a unique game. So let's move on to audio. Generally, this was the toughest part for me to evaluate because, of course, we're at an event, there was a big venue, and lots of noise, a big room, and all of that. It was kind of tough to gauge, but from what I could here, one of the coolest things about the game is how all of the tracks from the different games mix and match, because you start off with one track, like one track will play. I think it's generally the point character when the game starts. Their theme is playing from the left side. The point character from the left side who starts off the match. You start with his track once he gets knocked out, and then it's the assist character's turn, or is it the opponent's? I forget how that worked, but going from Ragnar's theme to a Eunice character's theme, and then to a Ruby character's song where you have Mirror Mirror for Weiss, and you have I keep forgetting the titles of the songs from Ruby, the initial Red, I think it was Red Like Roses for Ruby, and all those tracks mixing together felt really cool, really fun, really intense, right? It just really hammers that in, which is always a classic thing that you get from crossover games like this. The sound effects were kind of difficult to evaluate. They felt pretty distinct. It didn't feel like they copy pasted from any game, any sound effects or anything like that. I thought that the Resonance Blaze activation sounds were was really cool. Like when Resonance Blaze activates, you know that this is going to be intense, which is going to make it very interesting for Resonance Blaze activations. Right, let's move on to systems, which I think is probably one of the most important things to discuss here. First of all, lots of people have been concerned that because there are only 2 normal buttons in the game, that's how it's being advertised, that this is just a 2-button game with some support buttons left and right, which has kind of garnered the ire of more competitive people. I'm just gonna say flat out that you can't see this as a 2-button game. This is a 5-button game. This is a 5-button game. It's just that 2 buttons. And I would actually argue that it's 1 button that is delegated to normal attacks, more normal attacks in nature, at least for some of the cast. So we have A and B button, where A and B are what are considered to be your normals, basically. Where basically you can rapid fire, or you can auto combo by just tapping A repeatedly or B repeatedly, and you would get an auto combo out of that. But the cool thing about it is that these auto combos can kind of link to each other. Like you can start off 2 or 3 hits from an A auto combo and then move on to a B to continue on with a B, and then you can cancel one of the hits into a special or a super. And that would basically be a combo, a way you achieve a combo in BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle. A buttons, like I said, for most of the cast, feel like they're basically their normal attacks, whatever normal attack that may be. B buttons, for some characters like the BlazBlue characters, they're kind of like their drive attacks. They felt a lot like their drive attacks. Like for example, Noelle. I played Noelle a lot. Her B attacks are all like her drive combos, all those drive moves that she does, all the mixing of going high-low with her drive attacks. That was basically what her B button does. I didn't have a chance to play most of the any of the other characters. I played Noelle and Ruby in the game, so for my team, I preferred to stick to one team since I only got just a few matches in. C, while it is a move that basically when you hit it, it's a universal overhead that leads into a team attack cinematic that does pretty decent damage, and it's kind of slow. It still has utility as a normal move, because if you do a crouching C, that leads to a sweep, which leads to a knockdown, which I feel is going to be pretty good for developing corner pressure. Like you start off a combo, you get them into the corner, you finish that combo with the sweep, they're knocked down. So you've got knockdown pressure over there by doing that. So C can also in some senses be considered a normal button, and I think that people are going to use this a lot when they're trying to carry pressure on into the corner. Partner and assist buttons, I would say, are just as important and going to be used just as frequently, almost just as frequently as any other button, because they comprise the meat of the game's systems. The assist button is what it says it is. You press assist, your partner who's not on the field will come in and do an attack, and depending on which direction you hold back or forward, they're going to do a variant. They're going to do a different assist. A back assist is usually something very defensive, like an upwards DP type attack, uppercut type attack. Forward would be something that could carry on your combo or your pressure, like can continue a combo or can continue pressure on the opponent, whereas a neutral assist will probably be something like for Ruby, for example, it's her projectile, and then for most characters that have projectile, that is probably going to be their neutral assist. Overall, that felt pretty good. At first, I was kind of feeling like, this might be a little bit complicated to do and all that, but it feels pretty natural. Holding back and pressing assist leads to a defensive assist. That's really, really good. It feels very natural right over there. Whereas for hitting forward and assist, carry on your pressure or your combo, both again feels very, very natural. The partner button is what you use to tag in and tag out characters. By just hitting it in a neutral position, you raw tag, as we say, which basically means that the character that you had in does a taunt and leaves while the other character comes in. The bad thing about this is that's a very vulnerable position, and it's a very risky thing to do, because when the other character comes in, they don't come in swinging. They don't do an attack or anything like that. They come in just like that. Hello, I'm here. So they could get hit. So you might, if you do that, you probably really, really want to do it to save your point character. And you probably don't want to do it when both characters are in low health. But overall, you're going to be using this button a lot to tag in and out, because the damage in the game is pretty high. So you don't want to have a single character play until they die, and then you bring in another character. You have to kind of use both of their health bars as a single life bar to try and manage both their health, so that you don't lose too quickly. So that's going to be one of the things one of the decisions you're going to have to make a lot. So that's why I feel that the partner button is going to be used just as much as any other button. Resonance Blaze, I feel, is going to be one of the bigger decisions to make once your character is down. By pressing the assist button, once one character is down, once you press the assist button, you go into Resonance Blaze, which just gives you all the buffs. Basically, it starts slowly filling up your life bar. It gives you health regen. Basically, it powers you up. It allows you to chain. It allows you to cancel specials into supers and other crazy stuff like that. So Resonance Blaze is on a timer. You don't retain it forever. So that means that you're going to have to pick and choose the moments that you're going to have to use it. You're 1 versus 2. Do you use it immediately? Do you take out one character first and then you use it? It's going to be a big decision. Right. But I felt that some of the more interesting stuff came from the universal mechanics of the game, and namely the universal defense mechanics of the game. Because I think one of the more interesting decisions, and probably one of the more forward-thinking ones that they've had, the more forward-thinking things that they've done for this game, they designed in for this game, is that they've given everybody a universal DP, Dragon Punch move, like kind of like Ryu's Shoryuken, or think like that, or Ragna's Inferno Divider. These are what we call DPs, and a DP, giving everybody a DP, feels like an interesting move, because a DP has always been an iconic defensive move that has usually been given to specific characters. Not all characters have had it, but in this game, everybody has a move like this, and they all execute it in the same way. You just hit 2 buttons, I forget which ones they are, and you do a DP. And the other interesting thing about it is that it is air unblockable, which means that if somebody comes at you from the air, they cannot defend against it. Like, if you've seen them coming from the air and you're ready for it, you hit those 2 buttons, you're guaranteed to get an anti-air there. And that's great, because it just means that the game is further emphasizing over there that it's more ground game based. Now, here is where it gets very interesting, is when it comes to push block. Push block is basically when you hit these same 2 buttons for the DP when you're in block stun. You hit the 2 buttons while you're in block stun, and you push back your opponent at the cost of 1 meter. I don't know what they're calling these meters and stuff, but it doesn't matter. The blue meter, the blue horizontal meter, it costs 1 bar of that to do a push block. Now, here's the thing. Because it's the same exact 2 buttons, you're going to have to be very careful about when you do these, because if you press these 2 buttons and you're not in block stun, you're going to get a DP. And that means that if your opponent has tried to fake you, that, they start pressure, they keep you in block stun, you're like, okay, I'm going to hit the push block, and they're like, oh, I want to bait that, so they stop their pressure, bringing you out of block stun, and then suddenly you DP, then you're in for a really huge punish. So you're going to have to be very careful how you use push block and DP in this game, because both seem to be very baitable, very easy to get people to do them so that you can capitalize and do more damage to them and punish them. Right. So yeah, that's definitely going to be, there's going to need to be a lot of caution in defense, but this is the nice thing about it, is that everybody has the same defense mechanisms. Maybe some characters have more depending on their assist and what kind of defense assist they have, but yeah, there you have it. That this is what I feel is the more forward-thinking aspect of the game, making all of these defense maneuvers that are kind of iconic as well to all characters. Finally, the one thing I found a little bit tricky, and that is mostly because I'm used to fighting games being a little bit different about this, is the way movement works. By holding back, you basically walk back, like in every normal fighting game. Double tapping back will give you a dash back, a backdash, and that's all normal. It becomes different when it comes to forward movement, and that is when you hold forward, you run. There's no dash. There's no double tapping and run or anything like that. You hold forward, you run. You run forward. But now this got a little bit tricky for me to get used to at first, but then I felt like I got the hang of it. If you want to adjust your forward movement, you have to tap forward, because your character does an initial, like a little rev up before they run forward. So that gives you a little bit of time to tap forward to adjust your forward position. So that's going to be something a lot of, especially veteran fighting game players, are going to need to get used to a little bit, because it's a little different from what we're used to. But if you're brand new to this, it's not. That's just going to be something you're going to learn and you're going to know forever. And then when you play other fighting games, that's not going to be there, so that's going to be interesting. But I thought it felt natural. It still felt natural. It didn't feel weird or anything like that. It was just something different, something to get used to. Right. Now let's go on to characters. I didn't get to see all kinds of characters. And keep in mind that this was a demo of the game. There was no story mode. There was no single player stuff. There was no training mode. All we were able to do was go into character select screen, pick from the base roster, the base 20 player character roster. So no Blake, no Yang, none of the announced DLC characters, none of that. Okay, so out of that, and then just go into a match, and then, you know, go back to the character select screen, and that was basically it. So what I played for most part, like I said earlier, was a team of Noelle and Ruby. That was the team that I had in mind, and that was what I wanted to play around with. I didn't do anything crazy or impressive, but I did get a feel for how they play. So Noelle pretty much feels like Noelle from BlazBlue. There's nothing too different about her. The only difference is that she has a single button for her normal attacks, so she does normal attacks with that, and then the B button, which is basically acts the same way that her D drive button works in BlazBlue. So not much to say over there. She does pretty much feel like Noelle. I did feel like jumping B, being that bullet rain thing that she does, was a little bit weird. So maybe for air to airs, you gotta be careful which button you're using. But overall, yeah, still fun Noelle. That's all I have to say there. I think she's going to work very well with a projectile assist like Ruby's to cover her approach, because that's what she does very well, being in your face and, you know, mixing you up with her drive button. Ruby, I would say, I would call the Ryu of the Ruby side of the game. When I say Ryu, I mean that she feels like a pure fundamentals character, at least at first blush. She has the similar kinds of tools that Ryu in Street Fighter has, and she feels like the kind of character that can dominate the mid-range. She has good buttons for hitting mid-range attacks. She's got a projectile. I'm not sure if she has a DP of her own, which I doubt. There's still the universal DP, but overall feels like I'm playing a Ryu character in that sense, and that's really good, because having multiple characters that have this more neutral, does a lot of things okay-ish, but not everything very well, like a jack of all trades. I think having multiple characters like that is going to be quite beneficial, especially for newer players to play around with. So that was the team I made, and it worked out pretty well. So from what I saw from other people play, a lot of people played Gordo, and I think Gordo is going to be the top tier for at least the first opening weeks of the game. He's very strong. He already has a lot of range in Under Night, and that, because of the way the screen is and everything, his range feels like it's almost full screen. He does Grim Reaper, and he's kind of like covering most of the screen, which is bananas, and I think he's going to make for a really, really strong zoning type character who can dominate a lot of range and then just get in on you with the right assist, and, you know, just use his command grabs and all of that crap on you, and you're done. So Gordo is definitely going to be the character to beat in the beginning, or the character to play depending on your disposition and all that. Yukiko. Now, Yukiko was by far, to me, the most broken assist in the game. At least it looked like that at first blush, right? So we don't know. This is just my first impressions. Yukiko has this. I never played Persona 4 Arena, so I don't know exactly what she was like there. What I did see was a character who had really good zoning tools when she was on point, but as an assist, she has this Fire Phoenix that covers a massive portion of the vertical screen and just goes forward. And it just looks absolutely ridiculous to me. I think Yukiko is going to be in a lot of zoning teams, to be quite honest with you. One of her other assists is healing, which means that if you're a zoner and you want to, you know, kind of frustrate your opponent by playing the clock, keeping them out and all that, you can use healing when you have the opportunity to fill up some of your life bar and then frustrate them with that Fire Phoenix and whatever other zoning tools you have yourself. She will probably work very well with Gordo. She will probably work very well with New 13, which she apparently did, as what I saw one person play with both of those characters. Yeah, crazy stuff. Now, one of the other very interesting characters that I got to see was Waldstein from Under Night, and my god, is he also going to be kind of problematic in the beginning, at least, because of the mobility options that you have in the game, plus the fact that command throws are no longer 360 motions. You don't have to do a full circle on your D-pad or your stick. You just do a quarter circle forward or a quarter circle back motion for all specials, and that includes command throws. I think that he's going to be nuts. Tager looked pretty nuts from that as well, but I think Tager might feel a little bit more limited compared to Waldstein, because Waldstein also has that crazy range that he has. So I think with the right assist, I think we might see some really, really dirty stuff from Waldstein players. So that's something definitely to look forward to. Other honorable mentions, Chie. I've been hearing from a lot of people who once they saw somebody pick Chie, they were going, hey, oh my god. And it's like, Chie, I think she sounds like she was the problematic character of Persona 4. I don't know. Somebody please clarify that for me. But she did feel pretty fun. She looks pretty, like, in your face, pretty quick and all of that. So probably with the right assist, she can also do some really dirty stuff. New 13, definitely another frustrating character right over there with her blades and her traps and all of that stuff. She's gonna be pretty interesting to see how they develop teams around New 13. What other characters did I get to see? Oh, yes, and finally, Weiss, I feel, is, so far, between Ruby and Weiss, I think Weiss is the more interesting-looking character because of the icicles that she can summon out in front of her and, you know, kind of lock up the opponent. I think as an assist, she's going to work very well, or even as a point character. She has really nice normals that can really create some really good mix-up situations, and, you know, tossing out her icicles and her mobility also make her a really swift and in-your-face type of character. So I think probably so far out of the Ruby characters we've seen, Weiss definitely is the queen right now. But we'll have to see what happens, because from what I've seen with Blake, I've seen some really cool and interesting stuff from Blake, and we still haven't seen Yang in action, so who knows? Right, so some final thoughts over here. First of all, this game feels very forward-thinking in general to me, which is something that has kind of frustrated me about fighting games for the past several years. I don't feel like fighting games are trying to move forward in the direction that the rest of the gaming industry has, to kind of create games that are easy to learn but hard to master. And from what I'm seeing so far from this, kind of feels like BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle is a big step in the right direction towards that right now. Making defense mechanics universal the way they did, I feel, is a good move and a very interesting one, and will be very interesting to see how that plays out. What is going to be extremely interesting, just like with every other crossover game out there, every team-based fighting game out there, is going to be how characters are going to be mixed and matched, and how what kind of dirty combinations and mix-ups and setups people are going to come up with by, you know, mixing and matching characters with each other. Another thing is that I'm very curious to see what's going to happen character-wise in the future, because right now it's all looking like we're going to be seeing more Persona characters, more BlazBlue characters, and more Under Night characters. I think we're done with Ruby so far, unless they surprise us with Crow or Pyrrha or somebody. I don't know. But so far, it seems like that's what we can expect from these universes for the first, for these DLC packs that we know that are coming. But Arxis has been asking us what kind of guest characters we would like to see in the game, which kind of leads me up to the etc. portion of the character select screen, because the character select screen is divided by universes. So you got BlazBlue, Under Night, Persona, Ruby. Maybe not in that order. But there's also one that says etc. etc. So what is this? Is it possible that we could see 2B from Nier Automata? Is it possible that we could see characters from other anime join the fray? Who knows? There's a lot of possibilities over here. And that also could mean that there's lots of possibilities to see more Ruby characters in the future. Because, as far as I'm concerned, overall, this game is being designed, first of all, with the approach that we want to get people from these the fans of these 4 different universes together in one game. The only problem is that for one of these universes, we have to design characters from scratch. We have to create them and develop them from scratch, which is a huge process, especially when you're talking about hand-drawn two-dimensional sprites, okay? It's not an easy task. It is disappointing to not see more Ruby characters off the bat, but at the same time, I feel like if this game does succeed, and it doesn't take a lot for fighting game, that doesn't take like millions of sales for a fighting game to be considered successful so as to get another iteration. I feel with whatever new iterations we get in the future, we're going to see more Ruby characters, we're going to see guest characters, we're going to see plenty of different characters enter this fray, because there's a lot of potential, a lot of creative potential with this game, and that is, I feel, what is going to be the one thing that I'm going to sink my teeth into for the first time, actually, because I've never been much of a lab monster, more a labbing monster, I would say more of a training room rat, as it were. So we'll have to see. Right, and finally, I'd just like to point out that there were some skeptics among the crowd, like people who were like, I wanted to hate this game, I really wanted to hate this game, but then they sat down to play it, and then they just left smiling, and that was the feeling I got from every single person that sat down and played the game, and then after they left, they were smiling, they were feeling happy, they were like, this is cool, this is a fun game to play, and that's great. That's a great feeling to get from a crowd, to see people appreciating a game and having fun with it. So yeah, these are my impressions from trying out BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle and witnessing it up front, right in front of me there. So, right, if you have anything that you would like to add, there's the comment section right down there below. I can't answer any further questions. Anything that I had to say about the game is right here, over here. So, unfortunately, like I said, didn't have that much time with it. But there's going to be a beta for those who pre-order the game, and I'm very much hoping that that happens soon, because, yeah, the game is out in Japan 31st of May. 6th of June, what is it, 5th or 6th of June in the US. So yeah, hopefully the pre-order comes up soon and we can get I can get my hands on it and start playing a bunch and trying out different combinations as soon as possible. So right, if you enjoyed the video and are as excited as I am for BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle, leave it a like and subscribe to my channel because it helps a lot. I'd like to thank my patrons for all of their support, and if you would like to support the channel, you could head over to patreon.com/akibana0. And if you'd like to join our community to talk about BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle and other games in anime, Ruby, and maybe even the dankest of memes, head on over to Discord through the invite link in the description below, and I will catch you next time.